Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a sunny, bit cloudy and also very blustery day from Bournemouth. Sorry about that with my fingers in the shot there. I'm trying to cuff the phone as best I can because it's very blustery. Not that I'm complaining, because we had quite a warm, very warm few days, and this cooling down today is very welcome, definitely. Anyway, I hope everybody's doing well. I hope everybody's doing fine and got through weekends nicely and are ready to start the new week. I'm doing all right, thank you very much. Had a relatively quiet weekend, getting a few sort of personal bits and bobs sort of sorted out and that sort of thing, but I'm doing okay. A few things to look forward to in the next few weeks upcoming. So I've got further things to deal with next week, because my daughter will be coming over again in July, and we're going to make a bit of a summer holiday of it. So yeah, positive things to be dealing with. The reason why I'm doing this video is basically just like I always do. It's just to sort of check in a little bit and give my thoughts on one or two things and make a couple of announcements. I'm here at the Bath Hill Apartments, which you know, you don't really notice from everywhere in Bournemouth, but when you come up close, and I'm sorry if my voice cuts out every now and then because of the wind, I can't really help it. I'm trying my best here to protect the microphone from the gusts. But yeah, until you come into this complex, you don't realise how big it is. It's supposed to have been built in the late 30s, so from 1935 to 1936, so in 1 year this thing was constructed, allegedly. I'm 5 floors from the top, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 floors to there, but I am not on ground level here. This is surface level that I'm stood on, but I'm not on ground level because, as you can see here, there are loads of stairs that go down and then round. I'm not going to go down there. I'm going to cut back through here because I'm going to go back towards St. Peter's Church. Anyway, nice little sundial there, by the way, if you noticed. Anyway, I'll get out of this blustery wind. Yeah, Bournemouth does seem to have these gems when you walk around a little bit. Of course, it's getting extra blustery now when I want to leave the complex. It wasn't like this a few minutes ago. Suddenly there's a constant flow of air. So anyway, getting back to what I was going to say. A bit of positive amongst all the negativity and fear-mongering that we're witnessing at the moment. Everybody's being literally, pun intended, bombarded by news invoking threats of, expanding conflict throughout certain regions, and if certain puppets are to be believed, everyone's on the brink of World War III. I mean, he said this a few months ago when he told, I think, Zelensky not to gamble with World War III. No worries. That's just typical. There's always somebody right up my backside, wherever I'm walking, whatever I'm doing. Honestly, literally, doesn't matter where I am. I could be in a desert and a helicopter would land next to me. Anyway, yeah, so you've got all this quite heavy fear-mongering narrative going on top of course, all the other things that have happened in the last sort of 10 days or so. If you think back 10 days, we had the Air India thing, which we hear nothing of anymore in the news, ironically, right? Nothing is said about that at all anymore. Then we had, on a domestic level, at least here in the UK, a couple of things that certainly made me raise my eyebrows. One of them was that the House of Commons, so our elected parliament, I'm saying all that in inverted commas, voted against an inquiry into the grooming of kids through gangs in the UK, which begs obvious questions, but I shan't divulge right now. Then we had another bill that has been passed through Parliament, and that is talking about, I'll go this way, talking about assisted dying. So I think it was a majority of 23, nice number, again, Parliament voted to qualify a bill, have it go through, which is just the beginning of the process, by the way. It doesn't go straight into law. It now is open for enhancements and all sorts of other things that will happen. It will be discussed, and it will go to the Lords, and it will go back to the lower house and back to the upper house, blah blah blah. So there's a bit of a process, but anyway, so that means the UK then joins a further 9 nations, I think it is, who to varying degrees, to varying levels, are good with enhanced dying, so basically assisted suicide, if you like. And what's interesting is, amongst that list of nations that are okay with it or have got it passed in their law that you can, under certain circumstances, make use of that law, are Canada and New Zealand. So looking at it from, for example, a British UK point of view, for me personally, that makes absolutely no sense, because they're all nations tied by the same head of government, head of state, I should say. So it sort of comes over to me as being more administrative games, various sections of the world doing things slightly differently. I mean, even in the USA, there are certain states that have assisted dying and certain states that don't. And yet when it comes to law proper, like real stuff, the buck stops with Washington always, right? It's just all, as far as I'm concerned, all of it is just games, shenanigans, and things to throw people and stress people and all that, and basically give the media something to not just talk about but utilize. But amongst all that nonsense that's been floating around now for the last 10 days, Israel and Iran, and now allegedly USA hitting some alleged nuclear sites in Iran, which they've been talking about for decades. There are some people, I'm glad to say, who have ignored all of that nonsense and have focused on the important stuff, the stuff that really does affect us. And that is, there was a demonstration in London, Hyde Park, yesterday, I do believe, and people, thousands, and I know because I've seen some posts about it and I've seen a lot of comments on it, who went on the street talking about or demonstrating against geoengineering. Now, in one sense, I'm glad people are doing it, and I hope they're doing it for the reasons that are right. In other words, not just against people spraying skies, but also against the BS that's used as an excuse to justify the skies being sprayed. So in this case, the nonsensical, non-existent global warming, right? And so I find that quite intriguing, that there are a load of people going on the streets in London, and, well, according to a lot of the comments, people disagreeing with the global warming narrative, and so, of course, ipso facto, vehemently against any spraying of our skies. So I found that quite interesting. I didn't read about it anywhere else. I don't believe anywhere in the mainstream media reported on it. If they did, then I'm willing to be corrected, and I'd like, I'd like people to sort of share some links if you have them. I'd be fascinated to see or read what our handled friends say about it. No doubt there'll be siding with the the consensus, the state-sponsored consensus, and the state, of course, in the hands of other masters. But that's another story. But I just find that very interesting, that there were people. It's the first time I've heard of thousands of people demonstrating, congregating and demonstrating on the streets of the capital to talk about, or to voice an opinion on geoengineering and their disapproval of it. So yeah, I thought that was worth mentioning, because at the end of the day, and I need to sort of emphasize this, and it's something that I've noticed with a lot of content creators online as well, right? Whether in all sorts of aspects of the so-called truth communities. Okay, it could be of a flat earth ilk, it could be of a Tartarian angle, old world angle, chemtrails angle, whichever angle you want to choose, right? There are people who are supposed to be critical thinkers and critical thinkers via their research, and yet they still appeal to a little bit of the mainstream narrative, right? People have to understand that every single person you see on the television is in some way, shape or form scripted, handled, assisted, looked after, if you like, right? And your Trumps of this world definitely are. They are definitely not in charge of anything. They are mouthpieces. They stand in front of the camera and give it all the entertaining buzzwords and all that sort of stuff, right? That's what they do. That's what they're there for. To keep people enthralled, to keep people, just like in the old days. I say the old days, 20 odd years ago, when it was George W. Bush, or in our case, when we had Boris the Idiot Johnson as our mouthpiece here in the UK for a while. These are people who don't have any say in policy in terms of how the world moves forward in a metaphorical sense. When it comes to the establishment of narratives and social engineering, if you like, right? This is what it's all about. It's about getting people to think in a certain way, to have them believe in certain things, and because it's taught through the school system, through the education system, and then backed up parallel to that with media, people take it as a given to be true. You're right? And there are people out there who say, well, you have to believe something that they tell us. Well, actually, no, you don't, and you shouldn't. You should more use your observations and do some research as to how our systems are truly actually set up and connected with each other, and how they all link up at high levels through one system that uses a degree system as a form of hierarchy within that control network. So I just wanted to sort of emphasize that, and not have... I certainly will always be standing my ground on this topic. I will not be falling for this thing of every now and then dabbling with the mainstream and giving it some validity and and credence. No, absolutely not. Now, whether things go off or not, or whether things happen or not, that's a different issue, but it's certainly not because of the reasons that we're given officially, ever. Right? So, bear that in mind always if you're watching the TV. I do watch the TV, and, the more you see, the more you notice. And I don't sit there avidly watching TV. What I mean is, I'm not one of those people who says I don't watch telly. I keep an eye on what gets talked about. Yeah, absolutely I do. But it's so repetitive, and it's so almost predictable, and it's an entertainment value involved. People love it. People lap it up. But it's a major distraction from the real stuff that's going on, and that is the stuff that is affecting us acutely. And that is getting us all onto a smart digital system, gridded up, right? That includes our cars, that includes all our smart meters at home, that includes all our monetary system, our methods of payment. Cash will disappear. All cars will be electric. You'll all have smart meters at home, and everything will be on a system locked in with each other. And that's that. And one good way of doing it is to hike the petrol prices up sky high, so that people feel that the alternative, that is electric alternative of vehicles, for example, becomes more well, it becomes more attractive, right? There ain't gonna be a World War III. There ain't gonna be a nuclear war. And people have to understand that. We've had these narratives now for decades. Decades. I'm not worried about that at all. But I am a little bit concerned that people aren't sort of seeing the signs, especially considering we've had direct experience of these liars over the past 5 years. And that's the thing for me. Anyway, ending this video quickly. Here I am on St. Peter's Church. As you can see, although I've been walking around in circles a little bit here, but those are stairs leading up to what used to be quite an extensive cemetery, but there ain't much of it left. Hardly anyone's dying, it appears. And of course, this church is another example of a building that goes way deep down in the ground. Hence those buttresses there that you can see coming out at right angles from the main building. You wouldn't need those buttresses if it was just supporting that bit of church. We don't have them on modern day buildings like that one in the background there. That doesn't have buttresses. So why does this? Yeah. Anyway, also a quick announcement. This coming Tuesday, there is the Flat Earth Social, 1900 hours. That'll be 7 p.m. at the Bridge House Hotel in Ferndown on the edge of Bournemouth. Dave Weiss will be beamed in via video link to talk about Flat Earth and Flat Earth related topics. If you're interested and that's your bag, then do please come along. And if not, still come along, because it's always good to hang out and you know, catch up as well. I'm going to try and make it if I can on Tuesday, but I have got a busy week ahead of me. I've got a lot of things I need to do this week, and so I'll see if I can make it, and if I can't, then I can't. But that is not for any reason other than the fact that I've got a lot of things that I need to sort this week. Not that anybody's particularly interested in my immediate plans, but yeah, I just wanted to say that anyway, because I always thoroughly enjoy going to the Flat Earth Socials, always, because there's always other conversations there. You know, once you know the Earth is flat, because that's the way it's measured, and that's the way we've always measured it, that's the way we build, aviate, navigate, survey, map, all that sort of stuff. Once you know, that's it. Simple as that. And if it crops up in conversation with people who aren't aware of it, it might be dropped in from me here or there, but I don't need to, and I certainly don't debate it, because there is no debate. Anyway, as I'm a bit nosy, I'm going to go over here because some slabs have come off the ground here. All right, well, that's some drainage underneath. Yeah, so I'm not going to turn this into an old world pre-reset video, but I will call it time on the video right there. Thank you for looking in. Like I said, I just wanted to talk about a little bit about the overload, the overkill of kind of negative bad news that's been sort of beamed over the airwaves via TV, radio, online, whatever, right? I mean, it's a lot, and at the end of the day, you can filter a lot of that stuff out just by being a little bit aware and have a little bit of knowledge on how our systems, this world, the human element of it, how it's run, how governments tie in with the true masters of our realm. And they, believe me, do not sit in the White House or in the Kremlin or in Parliament or in the Bundestag. They don't even sit in the Bank of England or the Federal Reserve or Deutsche Bank. they sit in lodges. Okay, so on that note, thank you all for looking in. Take it all easy, have a good start to your week, and have a good rest of it as well. And I'll see you all soon, some of yous much sooner. Until then, it's ta-ta for now.